You know, the world keeps trying to keep Tuesdays from happening, but they keep happening. So as long as there's going to be Tuesdays, we're going to keep doing KHOP Live, right?
Oh yes, this is our 29th episode, and I have been booking so many hot shows. I can't even wait to tell y'all at the end.
I can't wait either. Before we get to that part of the show, though, joining us from Southwest Minneapolis is Lara Etnier, and from Duluth, Minnesota, Kyle Smith. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We talked about this a little bit off air, as they say in the biz, but you're both high school teachers. And the one thing that I thought was really interesting was you both were talking about how progressive or just amazing our high school education was. And you both learned this or gained an appreciation for it once you became teachers. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Lara, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, just like when you become a parent, you realize that your parents are smarter than what you thought they were when you were growing up. When you become a teacher, you realize all the tricks and all of the different things that people did for you along the way that seeded your knowledge. And our teachers were given a building that was built for modular scheduling. Hopkins High School has weird pods and classrooms you can't personalize, and walls that you could hear through and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you think about what our teachers did with what they had, the art place was a place I hung out a lot in the art pod. And Brad and Vern and Mel all kind of shared spaces and made room for us. I had my own, by the time I took Art 3, I had my own closet for all my materials, and I could pull my stuff out at any point in the day. Mel actually let me learn how to throw ceramics after school, and he had me with Corbin Crimmins, who I would have never talked to otherwise, because I was pretty intimidated, even though he was a junior. And he, Corbin was like, "Oh, dude, there's this new U2 album, and that's what you got to throw it to. It's totally like, you got it. This is called the Joshua Tree. You got to just totally like put your hands in the clay." And Mel is letting all this happen after school, before my swim practice, and they made education the forefront. It wasn't about the standards and the outcome-based education and all that stuff. It was about the kid. Everybody was trying to help the kids find a thing they could like launch with. And I can see that now that I'm in the front of the room. It's not about getting the best kids to the best schools. It's about getting every kid a reason to come back tomorrow. And our teachers did that a lot. They had these kind of quirky senses of humor. They worked together. You didn't have one math teacher. You got to be exposed to 6 different lecture styles. Yeah. And then you went into your small group where you could ask questions and then go back into the big group. And that was really college preparatory, but it was also developing different learning styles for the kids, so they could really understand what was happening in a larger setting or a smaller setting, and you can find out more about your own learning styles. I got kicked out of large group for talking, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, Mr.
And I hid in the bathroom for like all of lunch, and I was so embarrassed. And then I went to German class, and it was all okay, because like a couple people came in. Rich Lindstrom came in, and he's like, "Why didn't you go to lunch?" And I'm like, "Because I was crying in the bathroom." So mortified. But all those things are good learning experiences, and our teachers really invested in us in ways that they took risks. I went on canoe trips. I went canoeing for Phi Ed class.
Yeah.
Like, we were allowed so much free reign. Big kid, little kid, come on. That would never happen today. The camping
I'm
trip.
not sure we learned much.
The camping, and Kyle can talk a little bit about this too, but we had like the all school camp out overnight on the football field, the practice field, in tents for the entire school, anyone who wanted to participate.
Madness.
It was very lightly chaperoned, I guess.
Yeah, Kyle, what about that as a high school teacher? Like, Are there things that we did that you now you're like, there's no way that
There's
happens?
no way that I was looking over the yearbook, and there's like a 2-page about what kids decorated their locker in, and there was beer posters and Playboy pictures. I mean, the women had sub clothes on. I'm like, this would never be in our school right now, or the camping out there. And I remember that camping trip out on the field because someone the next morning was playing Pink Floyd Money, and I just remember waking up to that change machine at some ungodly hour. It seemed like that. But I don't know if you guys know, but we had a class called Outdoor Adventure, and Lara and I were in that, and it was one of the best classes that like we did a 3-day canoe trip. We went up to the Boundary Waters for a week. That's another thing. We missed a week of school to go camping, and as a teacher, I'd be like, "You're doing what?" Pulled out of school for a week. So.
And who was that teacher again? I remember what you're talking about.
Femright.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Who's that?
Mr. Femright. He was
Femright,
a Golden
right.
Valley crossover. So he came from Golden Valley. He was older. I don't think he took any crap. And he took us on that trip, and it was really cool. I mean, we slept in a Quincy. We made a Quincy on the ice in the Boundary Waters, and we slept in it for
What's a
2
Quincy?
nights.
Oh, you went to the Boundary Waters in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
this is winter camping.
Yeah. They had a cabin for everyone, and then one of the nights, if you wanted to, you could hike out either cross country ski or snowshoe and spend the night. And some just slept on tarps, but other people, the Quincy's pile all the snow in and let it sit, and then dig it out and sleep inside it.
Wait, a Quincy's like an igloo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Except you build it the reverse way. Like instead of building the outside and protecting the inside, you make it like you would a snow fort. You put all the snow together on the ice and let it sit for like 6 hours so it packs down, and then you dig it out, and then you sleep in it. But when you sleep in it, because there were 6 of us in ours, and there were boys and girls, it was kind of nuts. But when you sleep in it, your body heat and your vapors from your mouth melt the top, and it drips on you all night long. It's very, very interesting.
Lara, do you remember was it Alan Pearson?
Yeah, Al Pearson.
Al Pearson.
All night because he had tonsillitis.
He had tonsillitis, and our guide Chris said, "You have to put him in one of these Quincy's." And I'm like, John and I were in one. Like, we don't want him. He's gonna snore all night long. And so
you put him with me.
I know.
I was with them, and Wade Matson was in there too.
Wade Matson, yeah.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
I ended up going home with Al early because I had to do the cross country ski banquet. I planned it, so my mom said I had to go home. So I had already arranged transportation all the way from the Boundary Waters to Duluth, and then we took the bus from Duluth. Al and I took the bus to the Greyhound bus station. There were so many things that went wrong on that little trip, and Al couldn't talk at all because he had tonsillitis. He got his tonsils removed right after we got back.
How fantastic. I mean, just the idea that you'd put kids on a Greyhound bus and go get yourself back to Minneapolis, it's just fantastic.
I know.
So that reminds me, Lara, you were on the cross-country skiing team, as was I for just 1 year. That's another, there were several incidents that happened when I was on the ski team too, that I'm like, again, that would never happen today. Our coach was Pat Lannon, who was pretty much in some ways hands very on, but in many ways hands very off kind of.
It depended on your level of skiing.
Yes, right, exactly.
If you were good, he was more hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just remember practice run. I mean, I skied junior year only, and it was a year when we didn't get much snow and we didn't get any until late. And so the first like month of the, season, which would probably start like on December 1st, was just all dry land training. And it was like every day he was like inventing on the fly what our practice was going to be. I remember running through the woods, like behind people's houses off of Minnetonka Boulevard. And just, it was every day was sort of a freak out.
It totally was. And then we skied a lot. You'll probably remember this, but we skied a lot on the lakes.
Yes.
We put our brand new, like your parents paid for these skis, and we'd
Yep.
walk in our ski boots down to there's a elementary school in St. Louis Park.
Down Cedar Lake Road. Yep.
Yep. And then we would ski on the lake there, which of course, you know, we never really checked to make sure nobody would fall through.
No. Yeah.
And then we skied laps around the lake as if it were track.
Yep.
And then we would walk our skis back to the high school and try to catch the activity bus.
Activity
Yeah.
buses. Oh
Yep,
yeah.
4:15 and
And a late
5:30.
one. Yeah, there's a late one.
And then
Which also do not exist anymore.
I know it was such a great, our community invested in us. I would love to give kids access to the school without being graded. We cut that out. Like our society isn't investing back in opportunities for kids at every level. But
Yeah.
if you remember, Jason, the very end of Nordic for junior year, they didn't have enough snow to have the region meet.
Yep.
So they took the top 6 skiers from all the schools in the region. There were 7 schools, and they put them on one coach bus. And we went up to Jay Cook State Park. We skied against each other. The
Yeah.
football team would never do this.
No.
Skied against each other. Hopkins got first, and then we all went home together on the same bus
Yeah.
for 3.5 hours.
Nice.
Amazing. Yeah.
Richfield lost. I sat with them. I mean, it was kind of fun, actually.
We had a good team. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you were on the varsity 6. I was not. But I had a good time. I was on the team, you know, Paul Beneke and I sort of picked up the rear that year. I think Paul Beneke was primarily on the cross country ski team because Tisa Kopstein was on the girls cross country ski team. I think
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
of
the reason
course.
why he was on.
Yes, I actually remember. I remember her being on there. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's funny. I don't
Um,
remember Paul. Paul used to give me a lot of crap, but I don't remember Paul on the team. I
And
remember
we-
Paul in the classroom.
We got a little bit of trouble from Lannon because we were on the team also. Our friend Brian Sandham was on the team. Sandham had potential to be a good skier, his Norwegian heritage, and he was good. He was all right. Like he wasn't John Cookett level, but he was good, but he didn't apply himself very much. And we weren't helping in that applying himself part of it.
Yeah.
Kyle,
All right, let's
do you
just
see-
weigh in quick with our guests, or with our
Okay.
audience, I should say. We've got John Holland has weighed in and said hello to
Hi.
Troy Finn and Chad Alt, a couple of other regulars here. Troy Finn pointing out that school was called Cedar Manor.
Oh my
he's
gosh.
thinking.
That's
Tony Ceruno saying hello. Pam Kropp is on the line.
sweet.
Kate Stelmach is with us. Kathy Cheetah, we remember her as.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So hello to everyone, and please weigh in with your questions. Marnie, what were you going to say?
Well, I wanted to know, Kyle, did you ski?
No, I did not. Maybe a little bit casually. I did play soccer, so I was on my senior year, or played all the years, but varsity on my senior year. But yeah, no, I didn't cross country ski much. Maybe a little bit over at the park. I remember downhill skiing once because my church was going to go on a ski trip up to Lutzen, and I had never, or in Michigan somewhere, and I had never skied before. So a friend took me to, what was it, Highland Hills, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever because I moved to Minnesota in 7th grade, so I didn't know. I came from Ohio, so I didn't know much about snow sports till then. So, but
And when did you first become friends with Lara?
when did we?
We sat together in math class.
I was
and
gonna
we
say
went
math.
outdoor adventure.
I think it was math class and outdoor adventure. The ironic thing is I met her parents before I met her. Jerry Crobe and I were playing golf out at Orno Golf Course sometime in our high school summer. I don't know what year it was, and got kind of backed up, and there was this an older couple to us, and they were waiting, and so we ended up playing a few holes, and very nice couple. And the woman said, "Boy, I really hope you will meet my daughter at at Hopkins." And
Just what you want. Just what you want.
and sure enough, I think it was in the, I don't know if it was in the math class where we put it together, like, "Hey, I met your parents."
Yeah, that's always a good moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, my mom.
Yeah, go ahead.
My mom came home that day and she's like, you know, I just had the nicest golf game with the nicest boys, and you should be friends with them. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm good. And she's like, no, I really, really think you would get along really well with these boys. They're so great. And I was just like, oh my God.
It doesn't matter. You could be, you know, a perfect match for somebody else. Like you as it's been determined, you guys get along great, right?
Yeah.
But if your parents say, "I just met this kid and you should be friends with them," you're going to get as far away as you possibly can. I don't.
Lara and her mom were kind of.
Yeah, that's another thing. My mom and I, at the time, we have grown.
This happened once with my son too, where a woman that I know, her daughter went to school with my son. She's like, "We should get our kids together," and I'm like, "We absolutely should not." Like, they might actually become friends if we don't have anything to do with it.
That's true.
And so, have you stayed in touch consistently through the years, the two of you?
Not for a while, actually. You've been more in contact with Johnny and Duzman, I think, more. And yeah, I came up here, and so this was great to reconnect.
Yeah, this was really good.
Okay, you just brought up Duzman, so I'm going to show this photo that you sent to me just a second ago. Let me see here now.
I think I know which one it is.
Yeah.
He's going multi-screen.
I'm going share the screen. Okay, this.
Yeah,
So this photo, I think, has been on Facebook before or something, but
yeah, I
explain the scene here, Kyle. Give us what's going on here.
So this was the fall of 1987 after the Twins won the World Series, and they had the parade. And I don't remember if we were officially allowed to leave school, but probably half the school left. I don't know.
I left.
Yeah.
I remember it being they just said go. Yeah,
I think
so this is John, Chris Duzman with the flag, Dan Kelly with the Homer hanky, and Johnny Holland telling us we're all number one, I guess. So and me in the back with a hat on. So yeah.
Do you know who took this photo?
She was a year younger than us.
Okay.
Becky Schilling or something, but yeah. So I have it blown up. It's in my garage. There's no place in the house for it, and I can't take it to the classroom, so it's in my garage.
It is a fantastic photo. It reminds me of, it just screams 1987 to me.
I know where I was. I left school and I was stuck. I had some friends, maybe someone will remind me, and we were trying to drive downtown. We were just stuck on the freeway, and it was a parking lot, and we turned off the car. We were listening to the parade, just stuck on one of those 94 things.
I remember that we could get out of school, and my intention was that we were going to go downtown, and I don't remember whose car I got in.
Maybe mine.
Well, no, because we never got in. It was, so are we heading downtown?
Yeah, I was on like 394. We were definitely like almost there.
Yeah, we were not on 394. We went to Tony Cobb's house and watched it on TV and just hung out. And there was, Bob Gollin, I think, was there, and probably Doug Robertson and maybe Eric Haugen. And yeah, but yeah, that was like, hell no, we're not doing that. Like, we're never going to make it. Lara, do you remember that day? Did you?
I do remember that day, and I have a really sad story about it.
Oh.
But I was supposed to be with those guys. All of those guys said, you got to come. And I was like, my dad said since I didn't watch any of the games that I couldn't go.
Oh.
No, for real. And I'm a pretty big rule follower, so I stayed. And I just have to tell you that I went to all my classes. No, not half the school left. There were 7 people at school. 7. And there was 2 people in my math class, but then one of them skipped. He left because he was like, there's no one here. And I sat with Mr. Selno, our analysis teacher, and he said he was actually very frustrated with me because he's like, you know, if you weren't here, I wouldn't have to be here because I was the only one left on the math class for 6th hour, you know? So I stayed.
Yeah, Selma was the athletic director. Like, of course he would have been down there.
He would have been down there. But no. And he told me in no uncertain terms that I was the reason that
Get out.
he didn't get to go.
That is outstanding.
Wow.
I know. I would skip now though. I would totally skip. And I did skip a class in high school, by the way. I went with John Holland to get his golf shoes. It was great. It was awesome.
How did you get out of the parking lot? We've had a memory from Joel Evans, which jogged my memory that Joel and I and some people would go stamp a fake parking ticket in the library. How did you get out?
That's good. I don't know how we got out. I remember he took his mom's car. We went and got his golf shoes because he forgot them and he had a tournament. I was like, all right, I'll go.
I also heard people snuck out by giving the parking attendant guy candy bars.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember if I had like the lunch hour off or I would just, but my dad would call in that I had an appointment and it got to be such a running joke with the attendance people. I'd kind of walk back by and just by looking like, they're like, nope. And then I would do a circle and come back, oh, here you go. And then I would pull out, but then I would pull around the backside on North and pick up some people and we run over to Ridgedale for a quick lunch or something. So.
Well, this, again, like even people, you know, professionals, 30-year-old professionals that I work with, you know, can't conceive of a time without cell phones.
Yeah,
And
right.
a story that I sometimes tell about our high school was there were those pay phones that were right across the hall from the attendance office.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, like you would see people on those pay phones like all day. And I'm like, who are they who are they talking to?
Yeah.
But I know that some people did call the attendance office and pretend to be their mom from right across the hall, like 10 feet away, basically. On those stupid payphones. So I was just going to say that, you know, you brought up Jerry Krob's name, and that's how we first started talking about, you know, having you guys on the show. And we lost Jerry a few weeks ago. Kyle, you were pretty close to him. Do you want to share a memory about Jerry that particularly comes to mind?
You know, I guess there's just a lot of memories about him, and he loved music and was in several bands, and I just appreciated. I was kind of like, I had no talent in music. I never played an instrument, and I just would follow him around like a groupie roadie or something like that. And there was one time we went to some band was playing at the YMCA over by Ridgedale. And I don't remember who it was. I mean, it's just probably some small little band and something. And they took a break, and then they came back, and they're getting ready to start, and they're like, we can't find our guitarist. Anyone know how to play guitar? And we were kind of back and out of the corner of my eye, he's like going like this, and he went up to it and he started playing with this band. So that was just one that popped in my head. And he was in a band in the early 90s and playing at the Mirage, and I think they played it. Well, they had played at the Iron Horse. I'm trying to think if they got in the First Avenue or not, but yeah, I just loved his music back then and did well with it, and so yeah.
And he was a guy that you stayed in touch with until adulthood, or?
Yeah, we you know, as I moved up here and he became a police officer, we didn't see each other, but we would talk on the phone, you know, once or twice a month for a while, and then he came up, I think it was in 2012 12, he was on his way to work, and he was in plain clothes and stopped to get gas, and some guy asked him for some money, and he gave him some money, and then the guy tried to take his car and pulled a gun on him, and Jerry had his gun and ended up shooting him. The guy didn't die, but took off and whatnot, and Jerry got an award, and just happened that later that year there was some kind of conference for police chiefs or something like that, and that's where they gave him the award. So he was up here with his wife, and we went out to dinner with him, and then his wife got cancer about 2 years ago, and then so that's when I really tried to be there, not physically but on the phone, and then yeah, he was my best man in the wedding. So I think
wow.
So.
Well, I'm sorry. I was sorry to hear that, Kyle. I'm sorry, about that. Still, it's rough. We are at that point now where we are starting to lose people that we went to school with, which is why we've talked about this on a few podcasts. One of the reasons why we started doing this is, we lost Chris Dahl and Megan Blonigan in a very short period of time earlier this year as well.
Right.
And it just, you start thinking about this. You're like, what? You expect these people that you grew up with, certainly. Well, for one thing, they remain 18 in your mind, right? Forever.
Right.
We connect with each other on these shows, and we see, where some of us are a little grayer, in areas, but we picture them as 18, and certainly we picture them living forever.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. He
Lara,
lived.
did you know Jerry?
I did, but he was part of this group that, it's like John, Dan, Doozy, Kyle, there's and I've watched a couple of the episodes, and there really was a pretty big divide between North and West that sort of stays a little bit. So I was on the West group, and then like Kyle and Johnny went to, and Jerry went to North, right? So I don't have as much high school memories and stuff, but afterwards, Jerry was part of the group. And when the big group would all get together, play Risk and play, did a lot of Risk. We did some roller hockey. We did some, biking, listening to music, a lot of listening to music. Those things are, Jerry populates those memories for me.
Did you guys go to college at the same place? Did you go to the U, or where did you go after high school?
I came to UMD.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I, for the most part, stayed here. After I graduated, came home for just a very short time, and then came back up and went back to school to get my teaching license. And my wife is from Duluth, and we just stayed here. So yeah, I wanted to go somewhere out of the cities, and my dad's like, well, how about UMD? You're still in your diploma will say University of Minnesota. I'm like, all right, let's go to Duluth. And I love it up here. So
Duluth, from where in Madison, Wisconsin, I hear occasionally from people who will say, well, you're from Minnesota. What's Duluth like? Because Duluth has a lot of buzz about it right now.
Yeah.
And someone explained to me it's because of climate change. They're like, that's going to be the
place to go. Yeah.
Yeah. The summers will be somewhat tolerable up there in 20 years.
Right. And I just, I know you went to Madison, and at the high school, I coached mock trial for like 15 years, and our kids did real well in the state finals. Were down in Madison. So I got exposed to Madison, and I have some good friends from Wisconsin, and we try and go every other year to a Badger game.
Oh,
and I think Rick said this the other day on the interview about looking at Madison. I wish if I would have done it over, maybe that would have been a neat place to go, because I just love the State Street and the Capitol, State Street Brats, and just the whole atmosphere. It's nice. But
I joke that it was, and Lesage and I talked about this a little bit too. It took me about 30 seconds to turn into a Badger fan, and just like, this is all I want. I just want to drink all of this in right now.
Yeah.
Lara, where did you go to school?
So I was on the Nordic ski team, and I actually skied in college. I went to Northern Michigan University.
Oh,
They were
a lot of opportunities to ski.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 9 months of winter. There's 144 inches of snow average. So actually Pat Lannon drove me up there. Pat Lannon actually kind of procured my college experience.
Wow.
I didn't apply. I was going to the U, and then Pat pulled me aside and said, what are you going to do for athletics in college? And I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm going to go to the U. And he's like, have you thought about skiing? And I'm like, I didn't make it to state. So Pat, no, I haven't. And he was like, well, I have a friend who's building a team. So I went up there to help build a women's team. Of the 6 women up there, I was 6th. So, so I didn't make nationals, but I really enjoyed skiing up there. It was great. In order to ski in college, I had, I had to quit swimming. And swimming was something I had done since I was 6. So the second year I swam, and then I got injured. So I stayed at Northern. It was a really good place for me because I did still recreationally ski. I did a lot of different things up there. Northern was great. And Kyle, we were still in touch at this point a lot. But I did all these different things. I had a radio show, and I was on the Public Eye News thing, and I did like clubs, and I worked for the University Relations Department, and I did all these things and still managed to change my major 5 times and still fit it in 4 years.
Wow.
I know, right? Smaller schools, you can do that. So then I went, they invited me to stay on and teach English there. So I got my master's right away. And then after that, I worked in advertising in Detroit, and I taught in Flint. You've heard about it. They don't drink the water.
Yeah.
But I worked in Flint for a couple, 4 years as a adjunct instructor at the community college. And while I was working in Detroit, and then I came back home as fast as I could because I like it here.
So describe for us where Northern Michigan is.
It's the Great White North.
Is it in the UP?
Okay, see, Marnie, you got half of it. This is the Lower Peninsula,
And there's,
and this is the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
And here's Lake Superior.
yeah.
It's right there.
Right there.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. Marquette is amazing. I go
Yeah.
there at least once a year, maybe twice.
Well,
They have great mountain biking. It's like Vermont light. You don't have to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot. They have downhill skiing. They have Nordic skiing galore. They have marathons there. They have, I did all kinds of camping, partied outdoors. Everything was outdoorsy up in the
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. You can do fat biking. You can everything that you want to do that it involves outdoors, sea kayaking, all that stuff. It's all there for you.
Well,
And they have a good hockey team.
yeah, they do. Patty Hegry is on, and she's somewhat regretful that you didn't join her at the U. She's saying it would have been very fun with the U together.
Maybe too much fun. Maybe we would have had too much fun. She did visit
Possible.
me. She visited me at Northern Michigan University. She went up, Patty. She went up to cover the hockey game
Sure.
from the U as a Gopher, and so we spent some time up there too. And I spent some time visiting Patty at her various places where she lived. Always a good time. Always so fun to be with Patty and friends. Oh my gosh.
I can't believe not to get too far off track here, but I can't believe that when Patty was on the show, we didn't talk about the fact that she covered the men's hockey team at the University of Minnesota for the Minnesota Daily, probably the most prestigious beat at that student newspaper.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that a woman did that before Patty did that. I mean, she
I don't
maybe
think so.
no, but that's a good gig in the student newspaper world.
And she's a really talented writer, and she knows her sport. She lives and breathes it. It's part of her, and I think she's the perfect person to cover, regardless of gender. She is your person you want.
Did you guys have anything that you wanted to share that we haven't gotten to yet, or questions for each other or for either of us or for anybody out there watching?
I had not a question, but when we were, Laura and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about different classes, and I teach AP US history, and Laura says, "Oh yeah, I had," and it's called A Push, and I like, we had A Push, and she's like, "Oh yeah, American Pageant was a book I teach out of," and I'm like dumbfounded, and I'm like, I know we had sociology and psychology, but I took Modern Problems 1 and Modern Problems 2, and I'm not sure what I was thinking. I always knew I was going to be going to college, and I don't know why I didn't take something a little more challenging. But let's say the teacher was Coach McDonald.
Yep.
And it was kind of a rougher class. The clientele, we'll say, and he would, every so often he would get mad, and he would just say, "You want to go toe to toe with me, nose to nose? Let's do it." Not to me, but to the guys that were kind of raising a little fuss and stuff. But one day, and as a teacher, I would never do this, but he said, "Okay, I don't know where he got this survey," and he said, "All right, if you've ever been to like a party where there's, I don't know, smoking, give yourself this many points. And if there's drinking and all these different things you shouldn't be doing." And so then he's like, "All right, total them up. Okay." And then he starts saying different, like, if you're this score, you're this. And then he says, if you're like 0 to 10, and like an idiot, I was 0 to 10 or whatever, the lowest one, and I went to raise my hand, and no one raised their hand. And I'm just like, and then he said, "Well, based on this, you're prude." And I'm just like, oh my God.
Thanks, Coach Mac.
Yeah, thanks. And I couldn't get out of that room fast enough. And then Jason Hillstead comes running up to me, and I'll admit, I felt like he was more nerdier than I was, comes up to me and said, "Kyle, scored the same as you, but I was scared to put my hand up." Oh, thanks.
that is fantastic.
Yeah,
and like a good high school mentor, he didn't reward you for being, prudent and mature.
yeah.
He
Everyone else like,
cast you
"Why is this
out.
kid in this class here?" I don't know. I don't know.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I didn't even
God.
know we had the AP classes. So that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I do remember the class I believe that you're talking about, because I remember passing it on my way into Abalon's classroom.
He probably did.
I remember it being a little bit more lively and raucous in that classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the students there would visit the North Door on occasion there too. So
Sure. Smelled like nicotine. All right, we have a question from Tony Ceruno.
All right,
maybe
Tony.
you can predict this one, Kyle. He says, "Kyle, would you mind sharing the story of surviving a plane crash?"
Oh, I survived a plane crash.
All right.
Unpack that, Kyle.
All right. So when I started teaching at Superior, a guy that I student taught with would take students on trips to Central America. And I think my first year he took me I went with the group to Belize, and then he retired. And so me and another teacher kept this going, and we took a trip to Costa Rica. And we flew into Costa Rica, and then the next day, we probably had a group of 10 or 12, 2 chaperones and 10 or 12 kids. We were taking 3 small planes and into the jungle. And I was on the 3rd plane with 3 other students. And it's basically, we were landing on a par 3. Think of a par 3 fairway cut into the jungle, like right on the coast. So you're kind of flying in from the ocean, and you're going to land. And so when we hit really hard and bounced up, and I knew something was wrong, and we were running out of runway, and he tried to kick the engine back in to pull it up. And I remember yelling, "Hang on," and we just crashed. The wings collapsed. the tail on the back. I mean, this was a single prop plane. And I mean, I looked over at the pilot. I thought he was dead. He was bleeding, and the kids are behind me. And yeah, so apparently where we first touched down, that's where the other planes had stopped. This guy never landed there and did it wrong. So in the end, the pilot had like a broken jaw and a ruptured his spleen, and they had to put us back on the other two planes and fly us out there to get to a hospital. And I had some cuts on my knees and elbow and stuff. And the students were they were pretty good. One kid had his tooth came through his lip, so he had to get some stitches, and one had his neck kind of some whiplash, and another kid cut his arm. So that was, yeah, thanks, Tony.
I'm glad you're here with us.
Absolutely. I went on a trip with some teachers to Oregon. We were checking out some schools there, and the curriculum person was sitting next to me, and she didn't like to fly, and I said, "Hey, I've survived one plane crash. What are the chances I'll be in another one?" But then if you think that through, it's like, what are the chances you're going to survive a second plane crash? So
That's very comforting.
I didn't bring that up.
Marnie, do you want to tell us what you have in store for us in the
Oh,
coming
yes, I
weeks?
do. I was just thinking about plane crashes and mostly snow. But hold on, let me get my list up. Well, I have to say something to Lara. So, and Patty, I did not do anything athletic till I was 30. And one of my favorite sport now is cross country skiing. And I've seen photos of you, Lara, and sometimes when I'm out there, I actually think of you. Have you ever skied at Royal Gorge?
Actually, I have once.
You have?
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I don't get to go very often, but okay. This is very exciting. This is the 29th show. It's been amazing. Next week, we have Amy Pappas-Lucier. Sorry, Amy, I don't know if your name is pronounced in the French way. She may bring a guest. On December 15th, we have booked Chris Bjork and David Herbst.
Oh, yes. All right.
December 22nd, Deborah Oleski-Brill and Julie Hepner.
Awesome.
December 29th is too exciting to talk about. January 5th, Troy Finn is coming with a friend.
Okay.
January 19th, Denise Peterson Klosterman, Joy Geislinger, and Stacy Semler, a packed house. And Katie Keene has reserved a date in February.
Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect.
It's happening. KHOP88 is rolling into 2021. This is, I love it.
You know, good. I'm just all for rolling into 2021.
Right.
I'm totally cool with it. I think it's about time. Really.
I think, yeah.
We all are.
Okay,
Can
wait.
we
I have
call
to
it-
ask one of my regular questions before we go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we have to
Have the
do
two of you read any interesting books lately?
I don't remember you asking that question on many of the episodes.
Pass.
or it's often, have you taken up any interesting hobbies or?
Oh, thanks. Or read a book.
Well, one book I've been trying to read as a history teacher is Hamilton, and but I try to. It's a big one, and I read it at the wrong time. I read it when I'm going to bed, so I only get like 3 or 4 pages done. But that's that one I've been working on for a while.
That's interesting. Jessica Warren and I are reading audiobooks. You should try it out now that we're in the second half.
I'm almost done. In fact, I read some of it last night, and they're about the duel. So this is it.
A good time.
This is the end. So
Okay, how about you, Lara? Any reading tips for us or hobbies?
Okay, so I read all the things I teach a lot, and I teach 35 books over the course of the year. So I'm always kind of reading a lot of stuff. And I've been reading a lot in critical race theory kind of books. So that's sort of what I'm reading. Although one of my students who I wrote a letter of recommendation for gave me Anna Karenina. He said I would love it. So I hadn't read that, and I intend to start soon. Was going to read it over the summer, but I'll wait. My favorite
It's a
book.
winter book. It's really one of probably my top 5 favorite books of all time.
He's one of my students I really, really believe in. I believe in all of my students, but we connected pretty well. And he's like, you would love this. I bet you've already read it, but I just wanted to give it to you. And I was just like, okay, I have to read it now.
You
But
pretty much do. Yeah.
my favorite book to teach is Ceremony by
Leslie Norman Silko.
do you know it? 1977.
Yeah.
3 names. It escapes me. It's got a feather on
Leslie
the front.
Norman Silko.
Thank you. Silko. Yes. Leslie Norman Silko. She got a MacArthur Genius Grant for it. It's amazing. I love that book. I think it's phenomenal and a really good thing to read. Hard. I don't know that I would read it right now in this part of the pandemic, but maybe like later. She wrote it in the Depression, but it's a very hopeful book. And then I did take up the guitar. I took up electric guitar a few years ago when I was, when I was 47. And so now I'm starting to become what I would call a hack, which is good because I started even worse than that. And I really, really like it. I like to sing anyway. I was in choir with Katie Keene and some of the people that you mentioned earlier. And I still love singing. And so guitar is super fun.
It's a flying V guitar, right? And you're just
I
shredding licks.
skipped that one. I do have a Fender though, and I really like it. And
so you're plugged in. You're electric.
I am electric.
Fantastic. Yeah. What what genre? What do you play around with?
Gosh, I'm kind of all over the place.
Okay, good.
My range fits Brandy Carlisle kind of songs.
Ah.
So I do that a lot, or I do stuff. I really am like all over the place. I even play, some like all over. It's everything.
Okay.
Cat Stevens all the way to like
Metallica.
I didn't do any of that, but my son listens to that, so I'm more familiar than I was when I was younger.
Well, this has been an amazing show. I'm so grateful to both of you and Jason, of course, and everyone who's been watching. This is so fun, and it's almost more fun than a reunion because we get to listen to you and really think about your lives, and we're really grateful you're here.
This has been great. Been great watching them. Thanks for doing it.
There's surprises every week. I say that completely seriously. We learn new things every week, even about things that we were right there for. Like, it happened. It may have happened like 5 feet to my right in 1987 or whatever, and I totally missed it. So.
Well, when you mentioned Dan Trockman, it reminded me that my locker was over by the ceramics and where the KHOP was. And Maren Carlson was, I couldn't tell you who the other person was on my lock on one side, but Maren Carlson was next to me, and she was a great locker buddy, if you will. But Dan Trockman came out of where the TVs were, and he said, and I think we were in 10th grade, he said, the space shuttle blew up.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And so I remember going in there and watching it, several times, and then going to class, and I had Mr. Morin, I think his name was, and we had a good rapport with each other, and he liked to tease me and whatnot, and he said, you're late, and I said the space shuttle blew up, and he didn't know what to make of it, and then I think they made an announcement later on or something like that, but. Yeah, that when you mentioned Dan Trockman, I'll never forget that. So.
Yeah, that was the moment in our high school. That was the big historical thing that happened in our high school years, where you'll remember, because I remember where I was. I was in the lunchroom when some kid said it to me, and I just remember everything about that. That was incredible. And I'm sure everything was distracted after that.
Yeah.
I was on my way to Avalon's class in the social studies pod, and it was on the TV, like on the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That just popped up there was a Mr. Rogers documentary on public television just last night. And that was the part of it that I saw, was they were talking about his response to that tragedy and how,
Oh.
and I was like, you know, those images are in my, they showed footage of Christy McAuliffe's high school, like where she taught.
Oh yeah.
They, of course, it's assembled all the kids in
Yeah.
the auditorium, you know, and they're making noisemakers and throwing confetti and stuff, watching it happen live on TV. Like, imagine that. They knew the person who was on it. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, it was pretty amazing. But yeah, that's crazy. That's really, we haven't even gotten into lockers on this show, by the way.
We haven't? Oh my God.
No,
A little bit.
a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Well, one of the things I really like about what you're doing with this show is that I think when you go to a reunion, it's kind of cool because you actually talk to people that you may have been intimidated to talk to before, or maybe intimidated them so they never talk to you or something like that. And I like those connections, but I think it's a really good, and I was telling this to Patty the other day, like, I think it's a really good opportunity when you go to the reunion, you could like get to shed all of those insecurity things that you kind of held on to tightly and kind of forgive yourself for who you might have been. And I love that. But I do like the fact that we have all these shared community things, and that in these shows, these things come up that sort of weave our tapestry of community together for us to remember that we are all part of this something. And that even though we're far apart, it really does matter. And it made us, in a lot of ways, who we are. And I think it's super important to pull that out right now. I really appreciate the effort and time that you guys put into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you. Marnie's putting in all the time, booking all the guests.
No, you're editing.
But
With
it
music.
is cool, and it has turned into a conversation point that I have with some of my friends or people who I work with, actually, because the original idea, of course, is like, you know, you can make a talk show with your friends. Like you can find interesting things to talk about, and even if your audience is a limited audience, and ours is, you know, limited to the 600 kids that we graduated with, people like it, right? It's fun. So
Amy Pappas next week. It's going to be awesome, Amy. Thank you.
These shows
And-
are great.
thank you guys. And
Kyle, you froze.
I'm
yeah,
just going to Rick Marker.
fantastic. Oh, call back. All right. Thanks, Kyle and Lara.
All right.
Marnie, see you
Bye.
next
Thank you.
Tuesday. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.